Okay, so get this for this deep dive.
Okay.
You guys sent in excerpts from How to Read a Person, like a book.
Fascinating.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So we're basically going undercover, learning to decode all those little nonverbal cues
Right.
that people are throwing around all the time. Like, have you ever wondered what your boss really means when their foot is tapping like crazy during a meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Or if that side eye from a stranger was actually intentional? Let's get into it.
What I find so fascinating is that,
Yeah.
while we meticulously craft our words,
Yeah.
our bodies are often having a whole separate conversation, just leaking out
Totally.
our true feelings and intentions,
Yeah.
whether we realize it or not.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the book actually kicks off with a scene at an airport, of all places.
Oh, wow.
To show just how much we're constantly broadcasting these things.
Oh, interesting.
Through our posture, facial expressions,
Right.
even the way we walk. It's like our bodies are these giant billboards for our inner thoughts.
Precisely.
So to make sense of all of these nonverbal messages, the book introduces this concept of gesture clusters.
Okay.
So it's not about overanalyzing every little twitch and blink.
Right.
It's about looking for those consistent patterns.
Yeah.
Gestures that align with the spoken words and tell a cohesive story.
Gotcha.
So it's less about deciphering a single gesture in isolation and more about seeing the bigger picture of how all those gestures work together.
Exactly.
Oh,
Take the classic openness gestures.
Okay.
For example, open hands, unbuttoned coat the book, even connects this to how children naturally show their hands when they're proud of something.
That's so interesting. I've definitely noticed that with kids.
Yeah.
So open gestures basically signal like, hey, I'm approachable and sincere.
Right.
Let's connect.
It's about removing those barriers.
Yeah.
Both literally and figuratively.
I see.
Now, contrast that with the defensive posture of crossed arms.
Oh, yeah. We all know that one.
We all know that one. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The book points out
Yeah.
that even a subtle grip on the arms can signal a shift towards defensiveness.
Okay.
And women often fold their arms lower down.
Oh, really?
Due to differences in upper body structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a subtle way of putting up a wall without even realizing it.
Exactly.
Wow. I'm already starting to think back on conversations I've had, and I'm like, wait a minute. What did those arm movements really mean?
It's those subtle nuances that can be so revealing.
Yeah.
Speaking of nuances,
Okay.
let's move on to those hand-to-face gestures that are often misinterpreted. Chin stroking, earpiece nibbling.
Yeah.
That moment when someone takes off their glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Like to examine you more closely. The book links this cluster to a need to process information.
So it's not necessarily about deception,
Right.
as some people believe,
Right.
but more about just buying time to think.
Exactly. It's a subconscious way of saying, hold on, let me think this through.
Okay.
But on the other hand, a sideways glance or repeatedly touching the nose can be a red flag.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, those gestures often fly under the radar,
Right.
but they're associated with suspicion or doubt.
I see.
The book even points out that suppressing a gesture,
Oh, wow.
like someone starting to reach for their nose and then abruptly stopping, can be incredibly telling.
It's like they're trying to hide a negative reaction.
Exactly.
So it's not just about what we do, but what we don't do.
Exactly.
With our bodies.
Our bodies are constantly communicating.
Yeah.
Even when we're trying to keep our true feelings under wraps.
Okay, this next section, really resonated with me. Remember that nervous edge of your seat feeling?
Yeah, like when you're about to sign a big contract.
Yes, or make a quick escape from a boring party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The book connects this to a state of readiness.
Right.
Our bodies are literally preparing for action, whether it's to seize an opportunity or bolt for the exit.
Totally.
Yeah.
But then there were those gestures that kind of signal the opposite.
Okay.
Like a need for reassurance.
Right.
Thumb rubbing, object to mouth, even subtle hand clenching.
Right.
It's like we're seeking comfort
Yeah.
in those moments of stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These self-soothing gestures are our way of managing anxiety or discomfort. It's like our bodies are trying to calm our nerves without us even realizing it.
And there's this fascinating anecdote
Oh, tell me.
about a dentist
Okay.
who noticed that patients would often lock their ankles in the chair.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, it's an unconscious way of, like, holding back emotions.
Interesting.
The book even mentions that airline stewardesses use this cue to identify passengers who might need a little extra attention.
It's amazing how much we can reveal through even the smallest gestures.
Speaking of revealing, let's move on to gestures of confidence.
Okay, let's do it.
Because who doesn't want to project an aura of self-assuredness?
Right.
I have to admit, I'm a little curious about this, like, steepling thing.
Oh, yeah.
The book makes it sound like a power move.
It is.
Straight out of, like, a boardroom drama.
Yeah.
I know.
Steepling, where the fingertips are pressed together in a sort of church steeple formation,
I see,
is a classic display of confidence.
Okay.
And usually the higher the hands, the more confident the person feels.
Okay.
But here's a quest.
Okay.
Even something as simple as cigar smoking
Wait, really?
can convey a sense of authority.
How so?
It's all in the details.
Okay.
The way the smoke is blown upwards, the deliberate pressing of the puffs, it all projects an air of composure and control.
Okay.
Of course, it's important to remember that context matters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What might be seen as confident in one setting could be interpreted differently in another.
So it's not just about mimicking these gestures blindly, but understanding the nuances of when and where they're appropriate.
Exactly. It's about developing a deeper understanding of the subtle language of the body and using that knowledge to enhance our communication and connect with others on a more authentic level.
I like that.
Yeah. It's fascinating how the book delves into how body language shifts depending on, like, the relationship between people.
Right.
Like each type of relationship has its own nonverbal dialect.
And it starts with something we can all relate to.
Yeah.
Parent-child relationship.
Totally.
Like, I never even thought about things like door slamming or the volume of music as being forms of nonverbal communication. But it makes total sense.
Think about it. Parents and kids often develop these unique ways of communicating without words. A teenager blasting music could be expressing frustration or trying to create boundaries. And for parents, even a sigh or a certain look can speak volumes.
The book even talks about how mothers can often understand the specific meaning behind their baby's cries.
Interesting.
But only when they can actually see and interact with the baby.
Oh, wow.
Not just hear a recording.
It highlights how much context matters. A cry on its own might just be a sound. But when you add in facial expressions, body language, and that deep understanding a mother has of her child's needs, it becomes a much richer form of communication.
Okay, this next part is a little juicy.
Okay, let's hear it.
Decoding the nonverbal dynamics between lovers.
Ooh.
Apparently, you can tell a lot about a couple just by watching them at a party.
Absolutely.
Are they leaning in, mirroring each other's movements?
Yeah.
Or are they physically distant, avoiding touch? Maybe sporting those tight-lipped smiles?
Oh, yeah.
That signal underlying tension.
It's all right there in their body language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The book even points out that unmarried couples tend to stick together more closely at parties.
Interesting.
It's like they're sending a nonverbal message that they're a unit.
Makes you wonder if it's a subconscious way of solidifying their bond in a social setting, or maybe even marking their territory, so to speak.
Speaking of territory, let's not forget about those power dynamics that come into play in superior-subordinate relationships.
Absolutely.
Those can get pretty intense.
When there's a power differential, nonverbal cues become even more loaded. Think about it. Just the act of standing over someone who's sitting can make them feel smaller and reinforce that sense of hierarchy.
And then there's the classic power move feed on the desk.
Oh, yeah, the classic. It's almost like a nonverbal way of saying, I'm in charge here. It can definitely be seen that way, especially in a professional setting. It projects a sense of confidence, maybe even a touch of arrogance. But it's also interesting how the book points out that in long-standing, superior subordinate relationships, facial expressions can become more important than body language.
Like how a boss might raise their eyebrows and subtly shake their head to signal disapproval without actually saying anything.
Exactly. It's a way of communicating disapproval.
Right.
Or shutting down an idea without having to resort to a direct confrontation.
It sounds like those client-professional relationships have their own unique set of nonverbal challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Building trust is so crucial.
Right.
In those relationships. And nonverbal cues play a huge role.
Yeah.
The book actually stresses the importance of professionals taking notes.
Oh, really?
Even if they don't necessarily need to.
So it's less about actually needing the notes.
Exactly. And more about showing the client that you're really listening.
Right.
And taking their concerns seriously.
Gotcha.
And here's another interesting point.
Okay.
That hand-to-face gesture, when used with a client, can actually be a good thing.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was usually associated with...
It can be suspicion or doubt.
Right.
But in a client professional setting, it can signal that the professional is thoughtfully considering the client's problem.
I see.
However, the book warns against using it when two professionals are interacting, as it can create a sense of distrust. Yeah.
It's all about context, isn't it?
Oh,
it is. Speaking of context, let's talk about those high-stakes buyer-seller interactions.
Right.
I can imagine nonverbal cues can make or break a deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about reading between the lines, picking up on those subtle signs of interest, hesitation, or even outright resistance.
Yeah.
The book actually cautions against the hard sell approach.
Why is that?
Well, it can actually backfire and make buyers more resistant.
I see.
Especially if they're already feeling pressured.
Right.
You can practically see their body language screaming, "Back off!" Yeah.
Even if they're being polite with their words?
The book actually paints this hilarious image.
Oh, tell me.
Of a buyer. Leaning back with their arms and legs tightly crossed. Like they're daring the seller to impress them. While the seller is practically falling out of their chair.
Oh, no.
Leaning in with their feet in, like a sprinter's stance.
Oh, wow.
Desperate to close the deal.
It's a classic mismatch of nonverbal styles.
Okay, this next one is a little mind-blowing.
Okay, lay on me.
The book talks about how we use our bodies to communicate.
Right.
Even when we're on the phone.
I know, right?
I mean, the other person can't even see us.
It's amazing how much we still rely on those ingrained nonverbal habits.
Yeah.
We might gesture, nod, even shift our posture.
Right.
As if the person on the other end of the line can see us.
The book even mentions how someone's doodling style can reveal whether they're truly engaged in a phone conversation.
Or just going through the motions.
Interesting.
Apparently, abstract thinkers tend to create more symbolic drawings. While concrete thinkers are more likely to doodle repetitive patterns when they're bored.
Makes you wonder if those doodles are a window into how our minds work.
Right.
Even when we're not consciously aware of it.
And just like in face-to-face interactions, smokers have their own telltale cues on the phone.
Right.
The book mentions how they might put their cigarette down when they're truly interested in the conversation, but pick it up and start fidgeting with it when they get agitated.
It's like the cigarette becomes a prop for channeling nervous energy or expressing emotions they might not be vocalizing.
And we can't forget about those preening gestures. Even on the phone. People might straighten their ties, smooth their hair, or even glance at their reflection. It's like we're still trying to project a certain image.
It's as if we're hardwired to manage our self-presentation. Even when the only audience is ourselves.
Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready. Hit me.
The book takes us into the courtroom. Where body language is like a secret weapon.
Ooh, this is interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like a real-life drama unfolding with all those nonverbal cues adding another layer of intrigue.
Skilled lawyers can use body language to assess jurors, gauge the credibility of witnesses, and even anticipate the strategies of opposing counsel.
It's like they're playing a high-stakes game of poker.
It is.
But instead of cards, they're reading nonverbal tellers.
Exactly.
The book even points out how jurors themselves often rely on body language
Interesting.
to help them process the evidence and form opinions, even if they aren't fully aware of it.
So it's not just the lawyers who are playing this nonverbal game.
So it's everyone in the courtroom.
It's everyone in the courtroom.
We're constantly processing nonverbal information.
Yeah.
Even subconsciously. And it can significantly impact our perceptions and judgments.
The book even includes illustrations of classic courtroom postures.
Like what?
Well, there's the humble as I am, Your Honor gesture.
Okay.
Where someone's holding their own lapels as if pleading for mercy.
Yeah.
And then there's the Rock of Gibraltar stance. Where a witness sits with arms crossed, legs spread wide, and a defiant expression, daring anyone to challenge their testimony.
Those postures paint such a vivid picture.
They do.
You could practically feel the emotions behind them.
And even subtle hand gestures can reveal a lot.
Yeah.
Are the jurors clenching their fists? Spreading their hands open, fidgeting nervously?
Yeah.
Each movement can tell a story.
All right, let's bring this back to something we can all relate to. Social gatherings, parties, networking events, even just hanging out with friends.
Totally.
It's like a nonverbal buffet out there.
Absolutely. Social gatherings are a goldmine for observing human behavior and decoding those subtle signals.
Yeah.
You can see everything from courtship rituals to power plays unfolding right before your eyes.
The book shows these great illustrations of different groups interacting at a party.
I love that.
You can instantly tell who's bored. Who's smitten. Who's feeling defensive. Just by looking at their body language.
And let's not forget about the bore at the party.
Oh, yeah.
That person who leans back, hands clasped behind their head, legs crossed in that classic competitive posture. Droning on and on. While their captive audience desperately searches for an escape route.
Oh, we've all been there.
I know, right?
Yeah. Whether we've been the bore or the bored.
Right, exactly.
Those mismatched nonverbal cues can make for some pretty awkward interactions.
And sometimes it's the gestures people try to suppress that are the most telling.
Like when someone starts to reach for their nose.
Right, exactly.
But clutches themselves and pulls back. It's like their body is betraying their true feelings.
It's a reminder that even when we try to control our nonverbal behavior, those subconscious cues can leak out and reveal what we're really thinking.
Okay, I'm hooked. So how do we take all of this knowledge and actually use it in our own lives?
Well, it starts with self-awareness.
Okay.
Paying attention to your own body language. What messages are you sending? Are you slouching, fidgeting, or crossing your arms without even realizing it? Are your nonverbal cues aligned with the image you want to project?
That's a great point. I'm definitely guilty of crossing my legs and arms without even thinking about it. I need to be more mindful.
It's about being mindful of those habits. Once you become more aware of your own nonverbal tendencies, you can start to recognize those same cues in others.
And then it's about observation,
Exactly.
Really paying attention to how people interact, how they move, how they respond to each other.
And remember, it's not about overanalyzing every little twitch and gesture.
It's about looking for those consistent patterns, those gesture clusters that provide a more complete picture of what someone is really communicating.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget about context.
Oh, of course not.
Right.
Right.
A hand on the arm might be reassuring in one situation, but completely inappropriate in another.
It's crucial to consider the relationship dynamics, the power structures at play, and the overall context before making any judgments based on body language.
It sounds like learning to read body language is an ongoing process.
It is.
A skill that develops over time.
Absolutely.
With practice and observation.
Absolutely.
And just like any skill, it's important to approach it with humility.
It is.
We're all constantly learning and evolving. And there will always be nuances to uncover.
Precisely.
This book has been, like, seriously eye-opening.
It's true.
It's like I've been missing this whole layer of communication my entire life. The book encourages us to become, like, more conscious observers of the world around us. Almost like anthropologists studying a new culture. It even suggests, like, using TV shows as a training ground. Watching with the sound off.
Wow.
to see how much we can understand
Right.
just from body language.
It's a fun exercise. You start to notice all those subtle shifts in posture, those fleeting micro-expressions that often go unnoticed when you're focused on the dialogue.
So how do we take all of this newfound knowledge about body language and actually apply it in our lives? It can feel a little overwhelming.
It can.
Like trying to decipher a secret code.
Well, it starts with self-awareness. Paying attention to your own body language. What messages are you sending? Are you slouching, fidgeting, or crossing your arms without even realizing it? Are your nonverbal cues aligned with the image you want to project?
That's a good point. I'm definitely guilty of crossing my legs and arms without even thinking about it. I need to be more mindful of those habits.
It's about being mindful of those habits.
Once you become more aware of your own nonverbal tendencies, you can start to recognize those same cues in others.
Exactly.
And then it's about observation. Very paying attention to how people interact. How they move, how they respond to each other.
And remember, it's not about overanalyzing every little twitch and gesture.
It's about looking for those consistent patterns, those gesture clusters that provide a more complete picture of what someone is really communicating. And of course, we can't forget about context.
Oh, of course not.
A hand on the arm might be reassuring in one situation, but completely inappropriate in another.
It's crucial to consider the relationship dynamics, the power structure at play, and the overall context before making any judgments based on body language.
It sounds like learning to read body language is an ongoing process. It's a skill that develops
over time
with practice and observation.
Absolutely.
And just like any skill, it's important to approach it with humility.
It is.
We're all constantly learning and evolving, and there will always be nuances to uncover.
Precisely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's like the one P takeaway?
Oh, good question.
You hope listeners will remember.
The human body is an incredibly expressive instrument, and by becoming more attuned to its subtle language, we can unlock a whole new level of understanding in our interactions.
It's about seeing beyond the words, recognizing those unspoken messages, and ultimately using that knowledge to connect with others on a deeper, more meaningful level.
Exactly.
I love that. It's not just about deciphering body language, but about using that understanding to build stronger relationships and navigate the complexities of human interaction with more awareness and empathy. I think that's a great place to leave it.
I agree.
You know, with a little practice, we can all start to pick up on those subtle cues. Read between the lines. And unlock a whole new world of understanding.
I love it.
So next time you're feeling unsure, remember to look beyond the words.
Absolutely.
The body never lies.
It never does.